Hi, I'm Evan Goldstein, your host for Winecouch TV. Now, I have to be perfectly honest with you. We talk wine, this show is all about wine, but truth be told, I do drink other beverages. I have friends who are in other alcoholic beverage industries, and from time to time, I've been known to dibble in a little bit of beer, have a cocktail here and there, and actually part of that gave birth to this new segment that we've had. Well, not so new, we've run a couple of them, but popular segment that we have called Cocktail Corner. Now on Cocktail Corner, our goal here is to have a cocktail, demonstrate it, taste it, but the one caveat that I always throw out is that wine has to be incorporated in some special way. Now, a lot of my mixologist friends would be scared. They wouldn't take this on, they don't want to do it, I've got to have my whole array of spirits and all that, and very few are up to the task. But for me, it was really easy. This was actually a no-brainer, as they say. I called up the first time and I continue to call up my dear friend Charlotte Voisey. Now, Charlotte is the mixologist, brand ambassador extraordinaire for the William Grant Company, but she's also sort of like the cocktail mixologist to the stars. She's at all of these amazing shows like Tales of the Cocktail and stuff like that, demoing, talking, historically pontificating about all these interesting things about cocktails. So for me, it was really easy. So enough about me. Let's bring on Charlotte and get on with our next episode of Cocktail Corner. Charlotte, it's a treat to have you back on the show. I can't tell you how many calls I actually got, as well as some emails saying what a great job you did last time and how people are going home and they're making these wine-based cocktails. And thank you for, again, stepping up to the challenge. So,
thank you.
What are we doing this week? I know we did some really fun ones last time, and I'm seeing nothing this time that reminds me anything of what we did last time, so I'm a bit confused. So what are we going to do?
We've got a brand new wine cocktail for you, although rather it's not a new drink at all. I'm going to make a cobbler.
Like the kind that I for dessert? No.
A little different.
A little different? Okay.
The cobbler is a classic cocktail, and by definition, a cobbler uses wine, sugar, and fruit. So you'll notice there's no mention of spirits.
I was going to say, and I'm not seeing any spirits here on the table either, which was something that, as a mixologist, I was, again, a little confused. But let's go. I don't know anything about this.
So a cobbler is specifically a wine-based cocktail. So with that in mind, I'm going to start off with some red wine, and you can kind of use any type.
I was going to ask you that question because I'm sure a lot of our viewers are going to want to know, do I want a light wine, a heavier wine, an oakier wine? Is there any specifics on this, or just a wine you like?
Just a wine that you like, and as we go through the other ingredients, you'll see where we can kind of up the sweetness or improve the dryness, and that will obviously depend on the wine that we're using.
Great. Okay.
So starting with some wine, we are going to just add a little drop of water, and the recipe I'm making for you now, which I've called my Winecouch Cobbler,
I love it.
is based on an old classic from the Old Waldorf-Astoria cocktail book from New York, and that was a claret cobbler using claret wine, a little bit of water, some simple syrup.
And claret, for those of you out there who are not familiar with that term, is an old English term for Bordeaux or Cabernet-styled wines.
I didn't know that
There you
either.
go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I've used some freshly pressed pineapple juice since a cobbler must use fruit, but I'm also going to use some berries. In cocktails, we either enhance base flavors or we contrast with new flavors. And as you know, berries are quite a popular tasting note in wine.
Very much
so.
so.
I've added some fresh blackberries to the shaker, and I've added that fresh pineapple juice. So now we're ready to shake this up.
All right, if I remember from last time, this is when I kind of duck out of the way.
Perhaps.
So.
There we go. And I'm ready to strain this up now. Cobblers are traditionally served with crushed ice, and that's because those little nuggets of ice are supposed to remind one of the cobblestones on a paved street. That's where the name comes from.
Now, see, I didn't know that.
There you go, touche.
Now, we're using blackberries here, but you have some raspberries and some pineapple.
Yeah.
Could you do mixed fruits, or is it really best to focus in on a single fruit?
You can absolutely do mixed fruits. I'm going to use some of this for garnish as well. Now, some traditionalists will say cobblers should be decorated with fruit, and others will say that you can add it to the shaker.
Right.
So you see I did a little bit of both. So we added the berries in there. So pineapple for garnish, little raspberry, and I just love a little mint sprig on the top of the
Better than
cocktail.
me. I thought I did something wrong there.
No, that just helps release all of the aromas. And then we have the Winecouch Cobbler.
I love it.
A little bit of a handful, but give that a try.
It's beautiful and very, very exotic looking, minus the umbrella, which I was happy not to see.
No umbrellas in the 1830s, I don't think, but let me know what you think.
It's very refreshing.
Right.
It's got nice flavor. I like the wine there, but that there's an interest. Number one, you actually pick up a little bit of the mint, because as we smell, we taste as well too, which accents some of the flavors in the red wine. But I like that little pineapple-y thing is kicking up the acid. It's interacting in a really nice way. It's just delicious.
Thank you.
Now, this whole thing about mixology and cocktails with food. Now this to me, compared to some of the ones, seems like it might actually have kind of a food angle playing off of the wine and something like that. Are there traditional food pairings that go with this, or is this really, when would one enjoy one of these cobblers?
Well, as I said, the cobbler really comes from the 19th century, so in terms of food pairing, I don't think they were quite up on that back then.
They didn't have refrigerators.
No, it would have been a cocktail. Actually, the cobbler was one of the first drinks that we first used ice for. And we also term the first cocktail shaker, that three-piece, a cobbler shaker, and that's where the name comes from. So back in the 1830s, this was probably our first example of a mixed drink with ice.
And I hadn't written perfect pairings back then, so we're obviously not going to know what
to do with it.
Okay.
Yes.
And on that note, we're going to be getting out of here. But before we get out of here, as always, we're going to finish up with the Winecouch Word of the Week. And the Winecouch Word of the Week this week is muddler. Now, what in mixology terms is a muddler?
A muddler is a very important tool for us, usually made from wood, looks a little something like this. The bigger the better. A muddler is used to crush different fruits and herbs to release the flavors and colors and aromas into our cocktail.
So you'd put something and you just kind of like crush it, almost like a pestle would in a mortar and pestle?
Exactly, and it allows us to quickly and easily use fresh fruit in cocktails.
Excellent. Well, I think every house should have a muddler, and if somebody makes you mad, you could just hit them with it, right?
It's also useful for that
That's
too.
why I'm going to move out of the frame in just a couple of minutes. Anyway, that's all we have for you on Cocktail Corner this week with Charlotte. As always, go out, practice this one. We'll probably try and figure out how to post the recipe right next to this. And until next time, you take care, enjoy your cobbler, and thank you so much for being with us, Charlotte.
Thank you.